Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be reading and critiquing an article on the Hill, and it's from Andrew Hale, and it's on how China is in default on $1 trillion in debt to U.S. bondholders, and will the United States force repayment? Every country should pay its sovereign debt. Default, we are told, is not an option, but has anyone told China? Okay, so we're going to show you why this article is ridiculous and why Andrew Hill is clearly a moron or a propagandist, probably both, considering Western propagandists are typically morons. So the United States pays interest on approximately $850 billion in debt held by the People's Republic of China. China, however, is currently in default on sovereign debt held by American bondholders. Successive U.S. administrations have chosen to sidestep this fact, allowing business and trade with China to proceed as normal now that relationship with China is soured and the People's Republic of China has become the greatest adversarial threat to the U.S. and Western security. Policymakers should revisit this appalling failure of justice. Some history is in order. Before 1949, the government of the Republic of China issued a large volume of long-term sovereign gold-denominated bonds secured by Chinese tax revenue to private investors and governments for the construction of infrastructure and financing of governmental activities. Put simply, the China we know today would not have been possible absent these bond offerings. Okay, so remember, this is the Republic of China that did this, okay? In 1938, during its conflict with Japan, Republic of China defaulted on its sovereign debt after the military victory of the communists. The Republic of China government fled to Taiwan. The People's Republic of China was eventually recognized internationally as the successor government of China. Under well-established international law, the successor government doctrine holds that the current government of China, led by the Chinese Communist Party, is responsible for repayment of the defaulted bonds. Okay, so anyone who is not a moron can see why this is not a factually true statement. Okay, so yes, they are the successor government, but the Republic of China still exists, okay? It's in Taiwan. Okay, so if the government who you paid a debt to is still in existence, they're still the ones who owe you that debt, okay? I mean, even if you, it's like saying, let me see if I can come up with a good example. It's like, I don't have any good examples here, but it's really ridiculous that the Republic of China still exists. It's in Taiwan. They could easily pay off that debt, but you're for some reason holding the successor government, the PRC, accountable for what the ROC did, even though they are competitors right now, and the Chinese government is trying to reabsorb Taiwan. So, like, obviously, this policy of successor governments being in charge of repaying the debt makes sense if the successor government is what's left after the prior government has been overthrown and is gone. But if the government it succeeds still exists, if the ROC still exists, then they have to pay their own debts back. They're the ones who took on the debt. Please let me know in the comment section if you find this as ridiculous as I find it, because it's very clear that Taiwan should be the one paying this debt, okay? They still exist. The ROC took on the debt, and now you're saying that the PRC has to pay the debt while the ROC is right there and is not paying the debt. If the law is worded poorly, you have to follow the spirit of the law, not the wording of the law that is ridiculous. A private group of American citizens, oh, boo-hoo them, holds a large quantity of these gold-denominated bonds. I bet all these people who hold the gold-denominated bonds are Zionists, so I'm completely unsympathetic towards them. This citizen-led group, the American Bondholders Foundation, serves as trustee with power of attorney for some 20,000 bondholders whose bonds are valued at well more than $1 trillion. Then UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's tough negotiation stance on the return of Hong Kong to China led to the British settlement agreement on these same Chinese bonds in 1987. Thatcher said that for China to have access to UK capital markets, it had to honor the defaulted Chinese sovereign debt held by British subjects. Faced with this stark choice, China agreed. Okay. Unfortunately, the US failed to take such a common sense stance. Okay, so in this instance, the PRC agreed to pay back that money, even though it was the ROC that actually owed the money. The United States says does the common sense thing and says, well, ROC borrowed the money, so ROC has to pay the money back. And now they're trying to go back on that and pretend like it's actually the PRC that owes them instead of the ROC. Ridiculous. It really was ridiculous that China agreed to this anyways. But I mean, considering how much the colonialist powers bullied them, that I can kind of understand why they just agreed to it anyways. So the U.S. failed to take such a common sense stance. To this day, China has had access to U.S. capital markets while openly rejecting its sovereign debt obligations to American bondholders. They've not agreed to those to taking on that sovereign debt obligation because the ROC still exists. Lest anyone wonder about the age of these bonds, it is irrelevant. What matters is that this is a sovereign obligation. As recently as 2010, the German government made its last payment for reparations from World War I. In 2015, Great Britain made payments on bond issuances that dated from the 18th century. The Biden administration and the U.S. Congress have a unique opportunity to enforce the well-established international rule that governments must honor their debts. Like the UK did in 1987, the U.S. must view the repayment of China's sovereign debt as essential to its national security interests. In doing so, the U.S. government should undertake one or both of two actions currently being discussed by members of Congress. The first would be to acquire the Chinese bonds held by the ABF and utilize them to offset partially or in whole the $850 billion plus of U.S. treasuries owned by China, reducing up to $95 million in daily interest paid to China. This would lower the national debt and put the U.S. in a better financial position. Again, ROC still exists. They're the ones that should be paying it off. China, the PRC should not be the ones responsible for this. Just does not make any sense whatsoever. The second would be to pass legislation that requires China to abide by international norms and rules of finance, trade, and commerce. This would include abiding by the transparency rules of capital markets and exchanges and ending its practice of exclusionary settlements, discriminatory payments, selective default, and rejection of the successor government doctrine of settled international law. Okay, well, here's the thing. If you think that they should pay off the ROC's debt and you think they're the successor government, help them get back Taiwan, because if the ROC doesn't exist, I will agree with you. China should pay back that debt. They are the successor nation and ROC is gone. But with the United States propping up the ROC, who took on that debt in order to try to get them to break away from the PRC and mainland China, you just can't have it both ways. This is either one nation in which you're going to help unite the nation and overthrow the ROC, in which case, sure, I will concede that then in that case, the PRC should pay that debt, or you accept that that debt is not being paid by the PRC because it was the ROC who took on that debt and you're propping up the ROC right now. So one or the other. You know what? I'm going to do a jawline test for all of these soy people. Like I keep seeing these people write the most soy articles, the most feminine articles possible. And I really just want to see what they look like, because I have this assumption that they all have weak jaws. And it's been proven correct every single time. So we'll do that after this article is done. Okay, so this would include abiding by the transparency rules, discriminatory. Okay, China fails to meet these obligations. It would be barred together with its state-controlled entities from access to all U.S. dollar-denominated bond markets and exchanges. Oh, boo-hoo. So what? I mean, Russia's barred from that, and they're doing very well. So I don't think China cares really much. This, again, is just common sense. It would be the very thing the Chinese government would do if the situations were reversed. Over the last 2 decades, there has been recurrent bipartisan support in Congress for bondholders to address China's default, with several resolutions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, given the relations with China have deteriorated and there is bipartisan agreement on the threat from China, this matter can finally be acted upon by Congress and the Biden administration. Getting settlement on this defaulted debt is not only right and just for the bondholders, but if done correctly, could also be a huge win for U.S. taxpayers. Okay, so let's see what this Andrew Hill person looks like. I'm assuming very weak jaw. I'm going to look. Oh, they don't have a picture. Where's this Andrew Hill at? Is that Andrew Hill? Yeah, all right, I can't find it, but I'm assuming very weak jaw from this person, this Andrew Hill person, because this is a very feminine article. It it does this double speak thing where it's clear what the correct answer is, but then it tries to say like there's some type of consensus here, so you should disagree with the correct answer. Just ridiculous article on why the PRC should pay back what the ROC got debt on, but then the ROC still exists. So why should the ROC pay its own debt when the ROC is the one who took out the debt? Just ridiculous. More propaganda from Western sources, very soy Western sources. I'm calling it here. Andrew Hill is very soy, very feminine male. So if you agree with me, please give us a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm. Please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Rumble for more content. Please leave us a comment in the comment box showing your agreement for Andrew Hill, likely having a very weak jaw, being very soy. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.